Hello and welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. I am doing a video basically discussing how Grace Randolph is wrong with respect to Alien and Predator, so the news that they've now crossed over to Marvel. Look, I'm not hating on Grace Randolph. She does a very, very good job at what she does. Inevitably, there'll be people that jump on and just go, "You're hating, blah, blah, blah." I'm not. But she's categorically wrong on this front. And I think it's just because she's not a fan. So I want to just watch her video, break it down, and discuss some bits and bobs with you. Because I've had even people jump on my channel and go, "Oh yeah, but she said this, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, I don't care what she says. It's just completely wrong. So a bit of a different video today. I will not be making a habit of these things. I don't want to make a habit of these things. But I do feel it's important because I think some of the things that she said can be debunked. And I think that is important. So let's dive right into it, shall we? Yes, let's do it. Right, so I've got the video up now. And actually, initially, she does say something wrong straight away. So she mentions something about Home Alone. And then she says along the lines of, I wonder if they've got any plans for Planet of the Apes. No word on that yet. There is actually word on that.
Or Planet of the Apes. No word on if they have any plans for Planet of the Apes. But
no, there is word. We have news. And I'll leave a link down below in the description box. There have been several discussions had about Planet of the Apes, Grace. Unfortunately, I am really surprised that you would get that wrong. But anyway, and then she continues.
Yesterday, there was development with Predator and Alien. As you can see, Marvel has acquired the comic book rights to Alien and Predator from Dark Horse, who had them for 30 years. And let's be honest, never really did anything with them.
Never really did anything with them. They single-handedly kept the fandom alive. Single-handedly. In fact, a lot of the stuff which they have made and expanded upon was, again, categorically, like, reincorporated into the universe. The mind boggles at that statement. They've had them for 30 years and they've done nothing with them. If you look at what they've produced over the last 30 years, they've made a lot of comic books, a lot of graphic novels, a lot of, like, one-offs. To say that they've done nothing with them, because there'll be a whole bunch of people, right? Because there's like nearly 2,000 people that have liked this video and 43,000 views. A lot of people will take that as the gospel without doing any research. They've done a lot with them. And a lot of people don't agree with what they've done recently in the last couple of years. But to say that they've done nothing with them is so wrong, so disingenuous. It is absolutely unbelievable. But it also, again, it just comes from a place of simply not knowing. She's not a fan. She's not a fan of Dark Horse. She doesn't know anything about Dark Horse. But they kept the fandom alive. They kept the fandom alive. No one else, because they weren't making movies, did nothing with them. What a crock of shit.
I know that the few of you who read those comics, I mean, someone must have been reading them. They kept publishing them. But for the few who...
For the few who did. Way to belittle a fandom. What? Near enough most Alien and Predator fans would have read them. It just so happens that the fandom's not very large.
Few of you who've read them, you might take offense at my statement saying they never really did anything with the comics, but
that's because it's a wrong statement. They were consistently producing comics. They were consistently exploring a wider narrative within the comic books. Not only that, again, this is how disingenuous that statement is. The very first treatment for AVP, do you know what it was? It was taken directly from a Dark Horse comic. Did you know that? Well, there you go. Do you see what I mean? This is how disingenuous it is. Dark Horse single-handedly made the whole Alien versus Predator become a thing. But again, it's only a few people, isn't it, Grace? It's only a few people. And they did nothing with it. No, they didn't make AVP a franchise. Fucking hell.
Come on. I mean, they never had any major talent attached. They never really got any big media attention. There are no iconic Predator or Alien comics from Dark...
Yes, there are. Earth War? What? Cold War. Predator Cold War. Do you see how massively just straight off wrong from the bat she is?
Of course, that I think people would say you have to read to.
Yeah, we actually we see Dutch Schaefer's brother. We see a whole alien invasion. Predator Concrete Jungle. Are you smoking crack, Grace? Are you having a laugh?
Really, as a fan of those franchises, I think the comics that Dark Horse published more scratched an itch for fans.
No, again, this is the thing. And it's not to say she's terrible, but she's just uninformed. She doesn't know what she's talking about. There are many iconic lines that are absolute must-reads. Single-handedly from Dark Horse. What a disingenuous comment.
Between film installments. And I think the comic books can do better. And Marvel already has. Right out of the gate, they put artist David Finch on the brands to do some teaser images. And while there are no other details available at the moment, Comic-Con at Home, of course, is right around the corner. And that Avengers crossover that David Finch drew, although I have a hard time believing that Predator would get Tony Stark.
That's not Tony Stark, Grace. And I've had this discussion with a few people in the comments now. That is a robot. And people have been like, no, it's Tony Stark's head. It's like everyone's blind. That's not a spine. Zoom in. It's wires. No one got Tony Stark. And that's, again, this is the problem with Alien and Predator going to Marvel. And the reason is that Predator, for instance, like Alien can work elsewhere. But Predator works because he's the most technologically advanced being, right? He's a hunter. He uses his technological advancement as a hunter. Now, you put him up against Tony Stark. You trivialize what makes the Predator so unique, and also the dynamic of man overcoming the Predator. Tony Stark and the superheroes going up against Predator is completely redundant. It's a moot point. Happens like that. Gone. Done. Like, he's not going to do anything to anyone, is he? And this is the problem here. And if you can't see that, then you don't understand what makes Predator so good. Like, you simply don't understand it. And again, Grace doesn't understand it.
I'm offended already. But that's apparently just for fun. Or is it? You never know. Although, as you're about to see, I feel such a crossover. Well, it would be cute, but I think would be a bit of a waste of everyone's time compared to what else they could do with these two brands. So anyway, as we all know, comic books often do the groundwork for features and TV shows. Hollywood is very risk averse. They would prefer someone else take that risk, and then when something works out, they swoop in and level it up for feature films or television. So if Marvel can publish a Predator Alien or Predator vs. Alien comic book series that excites fans and the media, right? Then Disney will be more likely to turn that comic into a movie or streaming series.
Now, she's right there, but again, in doing so, just completely it shows the disingenuous remarks about Dark Horse. Dark Horse were the ones which created Aliens vs. Predator. They made it. That was theirs. They created that. And so it's such a disingenuous statement to say, well, look, Disney could do that, and then people would want it. They could turn it into a movie. It's like, yeah, that's been done. That has actually been done already. Yes, they didn't turn an actual comic into it, but they did it, and they were going to turn a comic into it. It just shows you have no idea what you're talking about, Grace. Like, get back in your box, love. Or just do a little bit of research. Just a tiny... It wouldn't have taken long just to Google Dark Horse, Alien Predator comics, and you'd have seen them released year on, year out. Year on, year out. Just the tiniest bit of research would have proved that you're talking crap.
Now, complicating the situation is that it's not like Predator and Alien have been hibernating. Oh no! Fox, like X-Men, kind of drove them into the ground. Not so much on Alien, which we'll discuss. But anyway, semi-legendary writer-director Shane Black, who appeared in the original Predator film, tried to revive the franchise just back in 2018, and failed spectacularly.
Yeah, right there. And I still get the comments of like, well, you enjoyed it. Like I enjoy McDonald's, but I still know it's shit. Calm down.
It did have its moments, though. I mean, anything with Sterling K. Brown can't be that bad. I liked the cast. It was a waste of everything that was there. But anyway, to be fair, the Predator brand, is very 90s, which is why it made sense to hire Shane Black, who is also very 90s. But clearly, someone's going to have to come in and reinvent Predator for today's audiences. It just seems dated. And again,
Here we go.
And there are still Predator fans out there. Again, some of you are probably furiously typing right now. But it's not a big enough audience. The appeal of the Predator brand isn't big enough to be a 4-quadrant movie. And that...
Right, so here she is right. She is absolutely right. But it doesn't need to be. You do Predator low budget, right? We've just seen a fantastic Invisible Man movie, right? $7 million, and it made so much money, so much profit. Predator doesn't have to be big budget, but that's the approach that they keep going down. You don't have to make it that. This is part of the problem. You're trying to reinvent it consistently, right? Get back to the core of what made it work. You can bring it forward in time away from it being the 90s. Absolutely, I agree. But it doesn't have to be big budget. It doesn't need to be big budget. That's the problem.
That's what a big film, or even a streaming series that warrants the budget these shows would need, needs to be. So they need to improve. They need to expand its appeal. Now,
but that's always concerning. Expand its appeal to who? Who? Kids? Like what? Who are you expanding its appeal to?
As for Alien, that's a bit more complicated because Ridley Scott's Prometheus 2012 and Alien Covenant 2017 weren't that bad.
Wrong. Covenant was a failure. It lost money by some estimations. By others, it made about $40 million, which is terrible. Prometheus made good money, but they couldn't, build off of that with Covenant. So it's unfortunate. But no, that's, again, somewhat of a disingenuous statement.
I mean, they have some silly moments for sure, like when the guy takes off his mask, although there's been some funny memes recently about the coronavirus situation and taking off your mask, right? We all thought he was so stupid, but look what we're doing. But anyway, largely thanks to Michael Fassbender's Brainiac-style performance as David, Android David, I think there was a lot of good in those movies. They, for instance, had David be a product of the Wayland Corporation, teasing a potential crossover with Blade Runner. I mean...
This is an incredibly disingenuous statement as well, and Grace knows it, because you can't cross over Blade Runner. It's just an Easter egg from Ridley Scott. This is the problem. You have people watching this that will go, they're connected. That's it, they're done, they're connected. No, they're not. They're owned by different studios. They're owned by different companies. You can't cross them over. It's literally just a director saying, we'll chuck that in as an Easter egg, who cares? It's not enough to say or cross over rights, so it doesn't matter. It's just a nice little bit of fun.
Even by having Wayland Corporation there, it's already creating them as part of the same universe, but, we thought maybe they would go further. And
what?
Maybe they still could. I mean, remember the commercials for David? Those were fantastic. And it was so great that Michael Fassbender was willing to film them. In fact, Fassbender ain't really working these days. He has Taika Waititi's soccer movie coming up, which could be big for him. Taika Waititi is really on a roll right now. And then also he will appear in the Kung Fury movie. Remember the YouTube short that came out a few years ago? I think it's awesome that Michael Fassbender is a part of that. So I think he seems like a pretty chill guy who will do something if it seems like a cool project. Well, if they get the right behind-the-camera talent, I feel that he would do an Alien streaming show. I would make it a streaming show at this point. I think the movies need a breather. But I would do an Alien streaming show where we could do even more of a deep dive. For Hulu, I have to say, an Alien streaming show would be such a big deal, and Disney Plus is so desperately in need of content, especially content that gets fans excited these days. I mean, they're very good at appealing to families, but they have to create chatter and media.
Well, you're not going to do that on Disney Plus. That's the thing. Disney Plus is for families.
Yeah. And I think you already see them moving away from that. Like Hamilton is not totally on brand with Disney, and yet there it is. There it sits on Disney Plus. Now, sure, it would have to be R-rated, an Alien streaming show, but come on, just put a warning in front of it. I think at some point Disney Plus is going to have to work out the R-rating situation, because Love, Victor, for instance, is a huge hit for Hulu. Huge hit, it turns out. And that could have been on Disney Plus.
Agree.
Hulu, I actually like Hulu. Their sitcoms that they have are impressive. But, Disney's building out a specific streaming service, and that's called Disney Plus. I wonder how stalled are Noah Hawley's Star Trek and Doom projects, right? I mean, his Legion got a little off track, but he did a really good job with Fargo. I think he'd be a great fit, obviously, because he already kind of told a David-like story already with that character. So anyway, my first priority would be for if I were a Disney executive, I would call it Marvel, or I'd call Kevin Feige now runs all of Marvel, but I would say, hey, develop me a hey, Kevin Feige, are you by chance also an Alien or Predator fan? Alright, so anyway, I would have them develop a David miniseries.
No one wants to see David anymore. They saw enough of him fingering flutes in Covenant, and that's part of the problem. You're moving away from the core concept of Alien at that point, like massively moving away from the core concept of Alien at that point.
Either off the last movie or some other kind of adventure. I mean, he's an android, he has lots of adventures. And then also see if they could crack how to make Predator relevant to today's audiences. I'd be like, you figure it out. You know, you do a couple of tries in figuring it out.
But I would quite literally do it as is. And the reason why, and this is again down to how Grace simply doesn't understand what makes Predator so great. If you just kept it as is, right, just modernized it, right, changed the setting and things like that, but modernized it a bit, or even don't even need to modernize it, send it back in the past, but understand what makes it so good, right? No high tech nonsense, or far flung into the future. Modern setting is kind of redundant at this point, but it would work as is because it would be counter programming, right? But Shane Black's The Predator didn't work for many reasons, many reasons. But do counter programming, get some toxic masculinity back in this thing. It would do very well just on that basis.
A little bit like what Star Wars is doing with their upcoming books and comic books. They're trying to see what audiences spark to. So that's what I would have Marvel do. And I would have them hire top-notch writers and artists to reinvigorate the comic book community's interest in Alien and Predator comics. Because again, Dark Horse has already been making them for 30 years. It can't just be more of the same. And again, a crossover with other Marvel properties would be fun and cute, but I think a waste of everyone's time considering what else could be accomplished. So what would you like to see Marvel do?
There you go. So basically, again, like I say, she's fundamentally wrong on this. And I know this is a different kind of video, but I just wanted to address it step by step, like watch it and then kind of just review bits and pieces. She's fundamentally wrong. There's some very disingenuous remarks. They've done nothing with it and all this kind of nonsense. There's no iconic ones. They made AVP. That's theirs. It's just so disingenuous, and her comments as well, like I say, just shows the fundamental lack of understanding of what makes the properties good. And her comments of like, yeah, we should get a David series. That just reminds me of Ridley Scott, a man who is constantly saying that the Alien is done. It's like, no, it's not. The Alien's not done. You keep changing what the Alien is, and then making the same goddamn movie around it. Change the movie. Give us a different genre within the Alien world. Do that. You know, you don't. These two people here are indicative of studio executives not understanding what they've got. All these comments just scream that to me massively, and it's a shame. So anyway, bit of a different video. I do apologise. I will not be doing stuff like this regularly. I don't want to. But look, there's been 40,000 people that have watched this, nearly 45,000 people, and it's just spreading completely disingenuous statements. So I wanted to go by it step by step. Anyway, thank you all so much. Take care.